Welcome to the Interrogation True Crime Stories podcast. All the stories told on this show are either fabricated, alleged, or didn't happen at all, and shouldn't be used in the court of law. We hope. Welcome to the Interrogation True Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, Corey David, and we have a special guest with us here today, Dan Bublitz, everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad, man. Just today, the weekend was really fun. I was up in Boulder. Have you done license number 1 in Boulder yet?
I have not.
It's a cool spot.
License number 1.
Yeah,
that sounds fun.
What about the name made it sound fun?
It just got like that, I don't know. It sounds cool.
Don't throw out hacky cliche small talk things at me.
It's like license number 1. It's the first license.
It's the first one.
It just sounds so cool. It rolls off the tongue. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It just rolls off the tongue, and it sounds like it would be a cool venue. I don't know. Because I imagine when you're license number 1, I feel like it's decorated with car memorabilia. And if it's not, then
like it's a Fuddruckers.
Exactly.
Two vastly different. Like one sounds super cool, the other one
Fuddruckers.
Right. Yeah, same swag on the wall. It's just a different vibe. Depends on the town that you're in. No, it's this speakeasy bar underneath the Boulderado Hotel that my buddy Jesse Carter runs. It's like a little shoebox of a room. Holds like 50 people. Very fun. Very cool. So that was the weekend, and then
so they're doing weekend shows there now because he was doing. On Thursdays, right? Wasn't that like a Thursday show?
It was just Thursdays. Now they still do the 2 shows on Thursdays, but they do 1 show Friday and Saturday as well.
So now they're doing 4 shows a weekend.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's become like a little bit of a comedy, which he's trying to do. He's trying to turn the place into a little bit more of like a full-on comedy club.
Wow, that's amazing. Good for him.
Yeah, just talk to him. Get on there.
Definitely need to.
Yeah.
I need to talk to a lot more of the people around the Colorado area about getting on shows.
I know, man. It's tough because how long have you been like a touring comedian?
I've been touring. I've been doing comedy for 12 years, but really hitting it hard touring. I mean, I toured off and on like throughout my years, but like consistently the last few years I toured really hard.
Yeah.
Where I was working mostly part-time if I had another gig. Otherwise I was doing like gig jobs if I needed extra money or whatever, but I was mostly touring and doing comedy.
Well, what prompted you to kind of like move towards touring more?
I think, part of it is having like an end goal for me. Mm-hmm. Like every time I really, obviously the end goal for most comedians eventually is to be able to make a living doing comedy. So that was part of it, was like, can I make a living and pay bills doing comedy?
Yeah.
And obviously I can't because now I have a regular job.
But you tried.
But I tried. I gave it a hell of a go. But the other instigator with it too is like I was getting ready to record an album. And so for me, it was the same like for famous comedians. When they're getting ready to film a new special, they take that hour on the road and they work it out as much as they can. And that was the same thing for me. I was working towards building, the material I wanted to put on this new album. So that's what I did. I was tour as much as I can. So that was kind of what really instigated doing the touring.
Yeah, to make the move, because you had the end goal was essentially being able to create something that you'd be able to sell or package. Did you wind up just filming the special, audio recording the special?
I did film it. I haven't released any of the video. I've released clips and stuff, but I haven't like put it together. I mean, I mostly, because the cameras, they're fine, but it wasn't like anything special. Because I put all the resources into the actual audio. I hired a professional sound recording or sound engineer who recorded it, mixed it, edited it, did all the things that needed to be done with it. So I put all the focus there, and the video was just kind of... It was just kind of there.
Extra ancillary thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have clips that I can put out. I have thought about releasing it as a special on YouTube, like free on YouTube.
Yeah.
I just haven't decided yet what I want to do.
I mean, if you're just sitting on it, you might as well, right? Because
it's really a matter of just sitting down, taking the time to edit and put it together.
Which takes way more time than people realize.
Yeah. And I think and for those of us that know, we're like, it can become very intimidating because I know how much time it takes to edit and put something like that together, and that's why I'm like, I don't know if I want to.
Yeah, let alone like making a clip, like just one clip and formatting it, changing the coloring and the lighting, or just captioning it and exporting it and all that stuff. That's just for like a 30-second minute clip.
Yeah, you could spend a hour just doing a 30-second clip.
Yeah, exactly. And I do it quite often. It's definitely been a shift in focus for me this past year. But I think with the video stuff, it's just, I'd started reevaluating what some of my goals are with comedy. Mm-hmm. And I kind of came to the realization that like I have time, in terms of like how I can do what I can do on stage, and most of the opportunities that I'm going to get anywhere in the country, even if I am headlining, maximum 45 minutes, and those aren't happening all the time. It's not like I'm getting in at a lot of clubs and I'm going to headline, right? That's just not the reality.
No. Oh, I'm right there with you. That's the same reality. Even though I'm touring a lot, it's not like I'm doing a full weekend as a headliner at a comedy club. Even on there's a couple little clubs where I could headline, but even so, those are clubs that are doing maybe 1 or 2 shows a weekend. They're not even doing a full, schedule.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I just thought that, if I want to gain a following, I need to go on the road more. Mm-hmm. I'm not afraid of the time that I'm going to have to do no matter where I go. And you either gain followers or fans by going to those places and actively kind of recruiting them with how you perform, or you find them online.
Yeah. Well, and when you're doing shows, let me ask you this. When you're doing shows, how do you actively get them to become, your fan or follow your social media? Do you give them an incentive when you're doing these live shows? Like, are you like, hey, if you, follow me on Instagram, I'll give you a sticker or, something like that?
Yeah, I think it's mostly just plugging my Instagram at the end of my set,
and just
talking to people. I mean, I put my I put my Instagram, my TikTok, and my YouTube handle on my merch, so just tell people to follow there. I've printed out like a QR code that links directly to my website and social media platforms and stuff, because other than that, you can't really force anybody to.
You really
right?
can't. No, and if they have to like you, and even some people I find, and I don't know, maybe it has to do with how easy your username is, because I've been thinking about rebranding and shortening my username right now on all social media. Shameless plug, but sure. I go by D Bublitz Comedy, and if you don't know, I have to tell them how to spell it. Yeah, and it is kind of longer. But then I started using on some, like for my Venmo, I just use D-Bub Comedy.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking about just doing a full rebrand to D-Bub Comedy, because it's way easier for somebody to type that in than D Bublitz Comedy. You know what I mean?
Right after you go past 4 letters of your name, people are like, they black out. They're like, what?
They're like, what?
Yeah, his name was Dan Bub. All right, can't find him. See you later.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been thinking about doing that because, that's another goal similar to yours, is that I've been trying to focus on, well, how can I build a following so I can go to places? And sure, I've toured a lot. Mm-hmm. And maybe you get one person to add you, or, when we were talking about before we even recorded about getting the follow through from people who like your reels and your TikToks versus, follow through to follow you.
Right.
And I don't know what the science is behind that. I see people that put up like 5 videos. They get one video that gets like 500,000 views, and suddenly they have 20,000 followers. Mm-hmm. And then and then they peter out. And I've been doing pretty good with getting that consistency, which I imagine you probably have too. Not with views, but not with follow through.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And so I've been all thinking about all of this and how can I gain more fans and followers so that when you go places, it's easier to get, people to come out to the shows.
I think you're just going to have to resort to doing jackass style antics on your Instagram, dude. You're just going to have to go full Steve-O.
Sometimes I wonder.
You're like, I'm just going to sell myself.
It's either that or I got to put more videos of my dogs.
No, that'll definitely do it. Just be like, hey, I'm also a comedian, but here's my Pomeranian.
Yeah, exactly. I just like post nothing but videos of my dogs, and then every like 5 videos I sneak a stand-up clip in.
Yeah, or just like splice them into the dog videos, kind of like subliminal messaging.
Oh yeah. Use the first like 5 seconds of my dog, so people are like, ooh, dog video, and then all of a sudden just me talking about dating or some stupid thing or whatever.
Or just use the audio from your stand-up and just make it a video of your dog.
I might actually try that once. I might try that just to see what happens.
That's not the worst idea ever. Yeah, I've tried making some videos like of me just doing my bits like into the camera, but I'm just like in my underwear. I'm like, I don't know, let's just see if it works. Who cares? Let's figure it out. So outside of doing stand-up, you have your own podcast, which we're actually going to record an episode of that after this if you want to plug the pod.
Yeah, we got the Art of Bombing pod, which is a podcast where I talk to comedians about bombing and their experience with bombing, what they learned from it, how they try to get better, the writing process. It gets really into the nuts and bolts of comedy, which I think, and it really looks at failure. That's the emphasis of the podcast, because not enough people, I don't feel like we look at it enough, especially in comedy, where not enough people talk about bombing. We talk about, I had this great show, I just crushed and blah 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 blah.
Sure,
but we don't want to talk about the one time when we didn't, when it was
the worst times.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, I mean, if they are inevitable, no matter at what level you're at. That's the thing. It's just it is. I think it's fun to talk about that kind of stuff. It really just humanizes what we do way more, instead of everybody always trotting out like all their successes. I think remembering that sometimes it just happens. It does. There's not a whole lot to do about it.
And through the podcast, I've learned a lot about the failure and bombing and whatever. But there's so many things that can cause a bomb, that not just you as a performer or you as a writer. Or, there's other elements that can happen. Suddenly an air conditioning comes on and now half the audience can't hear what you're saying.
Sure.
Or something stupid like that. There's all these different things, or the room's just not set up for comedy. So many different elements, because it does. A lot of people don't realize this when you think about a comedy show. There are a lot of key elements and ingredients that need to be blended together to make it the most successful show that it can be.
Yeah.
It's not just, are the performers funny? No, there's a lot of environmental factors that have to go into that. And if those aren't working properly, there's a good chance there's going to be failure with the show.
And even if they are in place, like that, bombs happen too. Like those elements just give you the highest chance of success.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It still doesn't prevent
it. And I've
definitely been there.
I'm sure we'll talk about this on your show a bit, but I've always found it so fascinating how a group of people, how they always say comedy is like, it's contagious, laughter is contagious. It's really amazing how a group of strangers can collectively come together and decide, hey, we're going to have a great time tonight. And then on the flip side, an entire group of strangers can come out and decide we're not going to like this at all. Like not one person here is going to like anybody in the lineup.
Well, I guess just like laughter's contagious and misery longs for company.
God, I don't know what it is. You're just like, what made you guys think this was a good idea? All 50 of you. Like all 50 of you hate us? Damn, that's a lot.
What's happening here?
So, in addition to that, you also help co-produce the Snow Jam Comedy Festival, right?
I do, yeah. I'm actually on the board of directors for that, and then one of the co-producers and one of the original founders as well.
Who's the other board members? A moose and a toothless guy named Larry?
Yeah, right.
South Dakota, right?
Yeah, that's, it's the other board members are Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. They agree with everything I say. They don't have much to talk about.
Yeah. And when they decide that they don't want to do anything, they're pretty, stone-faced about it.
Nice.
I got a dumb dad joke in there.
Love him. Yeah, so tell me a little. So the fest is coming up, right?
It is coming up. Yeah, it's coming up January 19th through the 21st of this month. And yeah, it's a great event. We do this. We're going into our 8th year. We do, we have showcases and headliners. We bring in over 30 comedians from across the country, I guess across North America, because sometimes we bring people in from Canada. And we're a nonprofit. That's what's great about this festival is we are a 501(c) nonprofit. All the net proceeds that we make from our festival, we donate to other local charities in the area. So the past several years, we were working with the Special Olympics of South Dakota. And this year, we're working with the Compass Center, which is they do stuff with helping people get through domestic violence and work on getting past it, things like that. And then we're working with the Transformation Project, which is another great nonprofit in Sioux Falls that helps families with that have family members that are I was going to say transforming, but I don't know if that's the right word.
Transformers, yeah. Shia LaBeouf, Megan Fox will be there.
They help families that have Transformers in their family.
Oh, yeah, that's tough. Guy breaks everything.
Stupid robots. But anyway, so they work with transgender people who have transgender I can't even speak. Transgender members or who are transitioning.
Yeah.
And so, so they provide resources and education for that. So both are great organizations.
Now, what made you want to start a comedy festival in South Dakota?
So this particular festival, well, it started as a joke. So this wasn't the first festival that I was involved with. But
it's gotten out of hand.
Yeah, it's gotten out of hand. Yeah, exactly. But it actually started as a joke on Facebook. Timmy Williams, who's a comedian and sketch actor, he was in The Whitest Kids You Know on IFC. He's from South Dakota, and he actually currently lives in South Dakota. Now, he moved back several years ago. But I think he had just moved back not too long before I moved back to the area. And he made a joke about, he's like, it'd be funny, I want to create a comedy festival in South Dakota, but I want it to be in the wintertime.
Yeah,
so it was just a funny thing that he was that he tweeted about or put on Facebook. And I was like, how serious are you? I hit him up. I was like, how serious are you? I'm all in on this.
Yeah.
And then he goes, I guess. And then he kind of said, well, if we could bring Nathan Holtz, who's another member of the board, one of the original co-founders.
Yeah, Nathan's awesome.
Bring him on board, I'm in. And so we were like, let's do it. So and that's kind of what stemmed it. It was just a joke that Timmy made.
And then it's just spiraled from there.
Yeah. and it was really funny because the first year we did it, we call it Snow Jam, and we say that we're celebrating snow and comedy. That's like the whole thing. And then the first year we did it, for whatever reason, it was like 50, 60 degrees all weekend, and there was no snow.
So people wanted their money back. They're like, this is false advertising.
It ended up becoming the running joke of the whole weekend about how this is Snow Jam and in South Dakota in the winter, but there was no snow. But then Mother Nature got even, because then the next couple of years it snowed, and then a few years after that, it snowed so bad people got stranded in Sioux Falls.
Oh no!
Yeah,
You're like, and there was no comedy happening at that point. They're just like, now we're just here.
It was like right after we got done with the festival, we got hit, and so flights got canceled and postponed. People got stuck who were trying to drive places. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean, so if people are interested in the fest or want to check it out, where can they go to find that?
I think go to snowjamcomedyfest.com. That's got all the information, all the shows. We have, I think 10 or 11 shows. Jackie Cation is headlining this year.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, she's headlining, and she's also doing a live recording of her podcast, The Dork Forest. And then, and then we got just 30 comedians from all over. I mean, and it's not just, that's one of the fun things about putting on a festival and getting to work with people is, it's not just, it's a variety of comedians from all levels. Like we have somebody that was on NBC's Superstore. He was a reoccurring guest role on the show. He's going to be at the festival. He submitted, and we have comics that have all kinds of credits that have been on late night TV, into comedy festivals, and some that have no credits but are really funny. So you get a great variety of that at a festival.
Yeah, and festivals are just fun too. I mean, it's just a bunch of comics running around just trying to have a good time, and really like they're excited to just be out of their own element for the most part, and just interacting with, like, hanging out with comics can be the best, Mm-hmm. So for the comics in particular, everybody's just there to have a good time. So usually that translates to how they perform on stage too.
Oh, yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so if everybody's just like being silly and just having a hoot with each other, and you're like, all right, now I got to go get on stage, and then hopefully that translates to the audience, and everybody realizes like, hey, we're just here to have fun.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And in my experience, that's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
So it's usually a good time. So,
all right, well, let's get into some dumb crimes I found on the internet.
I love it.
Give me your first impressions of this guy. Former Colorado funeral homeowner sentenced to 20 years for selling body parts.
Wow, that's not uncommon though. It's a trend. No, I think that there's a little bit of a trend.
That's trending on TikTok.
Well, maybe I don't know about body parts for sale, but I've heard of other people, people who own funeral homes, getting in trouble for selling body parts or lying. Like there's one. I want to say this was in Atlanta. They were like telling people that they were cremating the bodies, that people were paying for that, but then they were like selling the bodies.
Oh, really?
And stuff.
So wait a minute. So they're just filling it up with like sawdust. They're just filling up urns. They're like
probably just burn the casket or whatever.
Yeah, Grandma's looking a little pale. She's like, she looks like chicory wood. Well, it was supposed to be like kind of black and gray. This is kind of odd,
right? Mm-hmm. And I only know this because I consume a lot of true crime myself, so I hear about stuff all the time. And there used to be a podcast that I listened to that covered like daily true crime. So it was like current true crime stories. So stuff like this would just randomly pop up.
Yeah, that's kind of the goal with this. I never really wanted to go the route of like historical crimes, like maybe, but I just feel like that's been done.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like,
there's so many of them.
Yeah, mine's kind of more just like, it's more just kind of like crimes of stupidity, more
which
than
I think
kind
is
of like,
great because
yeah, just more or less because the essence of the show is always about everybody does dumb shit like at some point in time, and I'm trying to like destigmatize a little bit like so much shame that some people carry with like some of the dumb things that they've done in there, because if you just go on my Instagram page, you see all the shorts and stuff from like the things that I've admitted to on the show. Right now, my highest viewed video short that I've posted is about me pooping in somebody's hat in high school. I'm not proud of that. You know what I mean? I'm not.
Like, I'm not proud of it, but I did it.
It was 20 years ago. You know
right?
what I mean?
Exactly.
I don't have to carry that
I've done
shame.
some dumb stuff.
Exactly.
Things.
So that's kind of the whole
absolutely.
idea. Now with this person, like one thing that I would point out is maybe this would be less of a crime if they just like let the family in on some of the money.
I think that would be, definitely the case.
I think that'd be better.
It'd be like, hey, instead of cremating your loved one, I've got a deal for you.
And then they pull out a chart. Yeah,
and it's like they go into sell a timeshare mode.
Yeah, and then you're like, this is what it could be worth, And then you go through.
You could pay me to bury them, or I can increase your profits.
Yeah, you could even hold a fake funeral if you wanted to, just so you weren't shamed for it, in my opinion. But then on the side, be like, hey guys, but for real,
we'll keep it all confidential.
Yeah,
nobody has to know but us.
And I'm also kind of curious about what kind of sales process is this? Is it like a pet store where they have like a space below the funeral home where they're like, there's arms over here, there's legs over there, we got a ball sack over here. Like everything's just hovering in jars.
You got like land brokers, finance brokers. Now we're gonna have body brokers.
I would hope that at least they made a fun display out of it, instead of it just going like right from the hacksaw table into a bag, and then where is it like it goes to the highest bidder, kind of like beef? Because even though we have a lot of beef farms, we have a lot of cow farms in Colorado, this stuff's getting shipped out.
And do they monitor where it's going and for what purpose?
I don't think you put a return address on that box.
Well, but I mean, I'm talking about like, are they selling it to people who are like cannibals? And like, how weird does it get? Or is it going for science?
So is it good? No, well, maybe, but I think it might be like it might be twisted science, but they have cadavers for that kind of thing. So this is for like,
but how do you think
surgeons?
They get some of them cadavers? That's another case that I had heard about people there was a company buying bodies, and it was that they were using for science or whatever, using as cadavers, and people's families hadn't signed off on it.
Oh, so there's a cadaver shortage in the country, so they're resorting to the black market.
Apparently, yeah, that stuff. Those are things that I've heard through different true crime stories.
There's a shortage on everything in this country: eggs, bodies,
you name it.
Which is kind of surprising because I feel like people die at a miraculous rate.
But I'm curious what caused him to do it. How do you come up with this idea of like, how I could make some extra money? I got a gambling debt that I got to pay off, and then the debtor's like, hey, if you want to pay us off, this is what you're gonna do. We're gonna help you. We've got some customers that could use some of your product.
Well, I'm trying to figure out, okay, so Hess's lawyer said she had been unfairly vilified as a witch, monster, and ghoul. That would be better if she was selling them to witches.
Or for Halloween decorations.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You're like, oh my gosh.
It's like a real life Halloween store.
We love your house. It's got big candy bars and all of the bodies are so lifelike.
It's like, where did you buy these?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure.
They even smell rotten.
Has committed crimes when she defrauded relatives of deceased by lying about cremations. So, ergo, your same story. Bisecting the bodies and selling them without permission. The surgical training companies and other firms which bought the arms. God damn it, Dan, you were right. Arms, legs, heads, and torsos from Hess did not know they had been fraudulently obtained. What? Where would you get them? Then no. So she must have said that they said it was okay. She must have told them that it's fine.
And she's not getting permission from the families. That's where it goes. That's where the fraud comes in. She's telling the family, "Oh, I cremated the body," and then gave them dust or whatever it is. But really, she took that person's body, sold it to science.
Yeah. So at her funeral home, Hess charged families up to $1,000 for cremations that never occurred. So she's double dipping.
Yeah.
She said she offered others free cremations in exchange for body donations. So
hey, I got a deal for you.
So she was doing that.
I was like, I got a deal for you. If you donate yours, let me sell your body when you die. I'll cremate grandma for free.
Yeah, but only half of her. But only a part. Or
that's ridiculous.
You know how when like older couples like kind of pass away around the same time?
Yeah.
You're like, okay, so you can keep grandpa. But let me
grandpa
for free.
But
I'll do grandpa for free if you let me sell grandma to this convention center in Vegas. So last thing I see about this is like prosecutors said she lied to more than 200 families who received cremated ashes from bins mixed with the remains of different cadavers. So,
oh man!
So this is probably why Elizabeth Warren thought she had Native American blood in her family. She's like, we tested the urn.
I got a DNA test from my grandfather's ashes, and this is what came back. My 23andMe told me.
That's how you knew it was suspect. Shit.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But you think about that, 200 families, and if she charges them $1,000, that's $200,000 she's made just from that, and then whatever she's making selling them. That's insane.
Yeah.
What a racket.
So honestly, I feel like if she had just probably looped these people in on some of the money, she'd probably be okay.
Oh yeah, a little hush money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A little commission.
So similar-ish kind of story. I have a relative that was on the FBI's most wanted list for selling organs on the black market.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Like how close of a relative?
Cousin.
A cousin.
Older
Okay.
cousin who had fled the country, and he's arrested now, but he was selling organs on the black market in like the Caribbean, and then it had escalated to he was promising people basically offering surgeries for people that were on like the wait list for like major things before they were gonna die.
Yeah,
and basically preying on people.
Oh, that's like, even worse.
They weren't gonna get. Yeah, of course.
I mean, that's even worse than stealing somebody's kidney and selling it on the black market.
Oh, absolutely. Especially because he probably did it in the same space. You're like, I got a fresh one. The guy's still in the tub. Do you guys want to come down here for a surgery? But the problem was that the bigger problem was that he was like offering these to people, and then they would like get there and they wouldn't be able to contact him.
Oh no! So they were coming all the way to that whatever place he told them.
It's like their last leg. It's their last hope.
Oh my god, that's so cruel.
So he finally got busted. Thank God.
Yeah, I know he's your family, but I hope he rots in hell.
Oh yeah,
I mean that's so awful.
Yeah, he's trash.
That's such a thing was so terrible to do.
I know,
to
but
somebody.
it's so. I mean, I hadn't seen the guy in years, but we used to go on vacation every year, like as a fam, and we would go stay with their family. And I mean, he's got kids, wife, like all that, and he just like up
normal life
ish, yeah, like just up
on
and
the
left,
side.
up and left one day. And
how does one just decide to like, I'm gonna do this now? You know what I mean? Like you asked me earlier how I decided. What propelled me to go become a touring comedian? What propels somebody to decide I'm going to sell organs on the black market?
Probably the same level.
Or I'm going to sell bodies to science and
probably
lie
the same
about it.
level of psychosis as somebody that wants to be a touring comedian. It's like that much delusion in your life and hope.
But the difference is they were probably making way more money while they were doing it than we are as comedians.
Yeah, tons of money. We even just found out in that article she was making fucking buku money doing that.
Yeah, man, double dipping and all,
which is insane. So yeah, shout out to that family member. I don't know if he listens to this podcast in prison, but give me a call if you do, because we'd love to talk about that story.
How did you get into it?
I should see if I can maybe reach.
You should. You should see if he would do like a little mini doc.
I do think like where I'd like the podcast to go a little bit, because right now when we do the pod and we do the live show, it's always comics, because they're just comfortable being on stage for the most part. But I do eventually want to start trying to have people on that are either in prison or have been to prison.
Oh yeah.
To talk to them about like the shit that they've done. I think that would be like an interesting like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, especially if they're they come out of prison, reformed or whatever, because there are a lot of interesting podcasts too that do stuff like, not that specifically, but there was like a podcast, it was a docuseries about one of the most famous bank robbers in America who robbed a ton of banks in Southern California. They couldn't catch him. He finally got caught, put in prison or whatever, but he was one of the producers of this doc too. But it was so interesting to listen to his story. It basically just got into robbing out of desperation and then realized he was good at it. And then it became kind of an addiction. It wasn't so much about getting the money. It was more about, can I do it?
And also, I mean, after
feeding the ego.
After you've already been caught and served your time, like it's all public record.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're comfortable like talking, you're not like really revealing anything that people don't, like somebody wouldn't already be able to go look up and find out.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and sometimes I get reservations from people being on the show just because they're like, well, I don't know if I really want to, confess to that. But at the same time, I always tell people, I always preface that the stories are alleged. And then I also say it doesn't have to be something where you got caught. It could be something you witnessed, could be something just where the police were involved.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Just to kind of,
and it's one of them things too where, depending, I've got a bunch of stuff from my youth. Mm-hmm. But even if I admitted it publicly, and not allegedly, I think it's all past like the limit of statute or whatever. So
statute of limitations.
There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. Statute of limitations. So I'm saying it backwards. Limiting statutes. The limit of statues. Yeah. They can't get me. They've got a limited number of statues.
Yeah.
And they're all put together, four heads together at the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, I completely.
South Dakota ain't kidding me.
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of which, let's get into some of your stories, man. I know you reached out to me because you said you had some stuff you wanted to share. So what do you got?
Oh yeah, I do. Well, because I've always been fascinated with crime and true crime, and especially as an early age, I was really fascinated with because you see movies and television and you romanticize life of crime. You see movies about like The Godfather, and you see Billy, Bonnie and Clyde, Billy the Kid, like all these like legendary outlaws and that kind of thing.
Crime's been glamorized quite a bit.
Exactly,
especially in American culture. Yeah,
and so early on, I was always very interested into mafia and organized crime and different things like that, and so. As a youth, there was a time in my life when I thought, well, maybe I could be a criminal.
Okay. Did you want to figure out if you could be like initiated into the mob or the mafia or something?
It was like, in my dumb mind, it's like, how do you go to crime college? How do you become a criminal?
Well,
much like comedy, you just got to do it.
You got to try. You just got to put yourself out there, dude.
You got to put yourself out there.
Well, it's funny. I feel like you probably know a little bit more about this just because you listen and watch true crime stuff or whatever. I feel like that has been kind of done where people will kind of learn how to commit crimes by watching like movies or TV shows or whatever, and they kind of try to mirror like map what they do.
I have a joke that I do because I do some material about true crime and stuff, and I have a joke about that, how true crime now is it's educational programming, because you either learn what not to do because somebody got caught, or you learn what to do because they're still looking for somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it is very,
it
educational.
It can show you the blueprint, even if it's not exactly how you should do it.
And it almost makes me wonder how many more crimes are getting committed successfully, and when I say successfully, I mean just haven't been caught yet, or they got away with it for a little while. Hopefully if you're committing crime, eventually you get caught.
Unless it's a crime against a corporation.
I was going to say unless you're Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, right? But sometimes I wonder about that, because you can learn so much just from that, and I wonder, because of how glorified it is now too, and glamorized, and now we have podcasts, we have social media, we have streaming services, and you look at any of them, true crime documentaries are one of the top things in all the streaming services. So it's like there's so much out there where people can learn. So I just kind of side note, I just wonder how many people are getting away with crime now because of that. But that being said, as a kid, I just thought it was cool. So one of the things for me as a kid, and I only got caught one time.
Oh, good.
So
low percentage.
Yeah, I got caught.
Was it
one
a
time.
lot of times that you committed crimes, or was it?
Well, a handful. Yeah.
Okay.
This particular, I kind of was kind of a klepto. That's the thing. I really like to shoplift. Mm-hmm. Not because I cared about, because a lot of the stuff I shoplifted was dumb stuff like cigarettes, chewing tobacco, candy bar, like just dumb shit. It was more about, can I pull it off?
Yeah, can you do it?
And the first time I did it, I got caught. That was the one and only time. And it was pretty scary, because I was like 11 years old, and I was it was in the summertime, and I had to go to the babysitter, which at this time when I think back to that in hindsight, I don't understand why I was at a babysitter anyway, because by this time...
Were you like 18?
Well, no, I was 11, but at that time, I was already pretty much taking care of myself.
Yeah. And
my little brother, so I'm not sure. I think my dad had us go to this babysitter just because maybe he had a... little bit of a crush on her, or he was just trying to help her out.
Oh, just wanted to give himself an opportunity and an excuse to go over there?
Well, that, or like, this is a way to help, I'm not going to just give you money, but here, you can babysit, that kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
And I could be totally wrong. I mean, this is like 30 years ago.
Just using his kids as an invoice.
Pretty much, exactly, pretty much.
See, documented right here, 2 children at the rate of $30 an hour.
Or it could have been, too, that maybe I got myself in trouble and my dad didn't trust me at that particular moment. Who knows?
Because you were trying to be a criminal.
Exactly. You need some supervision. But this babysitter lived in an apartment that was right across from the mall. And not a good babysitter, because I was like, hey, can I go over to the mall by myself? And she's like, sure.
As long as you're nearby, I guess that still counts as babysitting. Get back by,
exactly. So then she just let me go over to the mall, I was like, I want to go over to the arcade, blah, 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 blah. Because we had a really cool arcade, and I did, but I didn't really have any money for the arcade. So, so I just like hung around the mall for a little bit, and then I was at the Kmart, which, if you're not familiar, people listening, Kmart was a department store back in the 90s and early 2000s.
The old Blue Light Special.
Blue Light Special, that's right. Yep. It was like a Walmart, but I don't know, Midwest, I guess. I don't know how far out they were.
I mean, they had them in New York.
Yeah, did they?
Something
okay.
familiar,
So they were a national department store then. Either way, I went to the Kmart, and I've always been a big comic book guy, big nerd and everything. And as a kid, my favorite cartoon was the Justice League. And I had Justice League, some Justice League toys and stuff like that. But a new Justice League series of action figures came out. And that was when I decided that I was going to become a criminal. And
the irony, by the way,
I know,
of becoming a criminal to steal a superhero comic.
Yeah, action figures. But still, yeah, superhero action figures. That's what I decided to steal.
You decided to become the person that they would actually go after.
Exactly. I was like, I'll get them. I'll take them prisoner.
Be a villain.
And so I decided that, I really wanted these, but I didn't have any money. So what was I going to do? You know what? I'm going to steal these. And I devised the best plan that I could think of in that flash. And that was to watch around and make sure nobody's looking, and then go to the bathroom, open the toys, put the toys in my pocket, and then leave the store.
Not the worst idea. I mean, at least you took them out of the packaging.
Hide the package right on top of the trash.
Oh, the top. Yeah, okay.
Like
that's where you were foiled.
That's where I was foiled. I didn't even get out of the store though. So, and I know a lot of stores now, policies have changed. Now you can go in and just literally shoplift in front of an employee.
Yeah.
And they can't do anything.
And they also don't care.
They can follow you out and get your license plate number, but that's about the extent of what they can do.
Yeah.
They can't stop you. And that's another thing. You see videos on social media. People just like teenagers going into department stores and just taking a bunch of stuff and walking right out.
Nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. Crazy.
Especially once they leave the store.
So I walked out of the bathroom. I started to leave the store, and the assistant manager nabbed me. And he's like, empty your pockets. And I was a dumb kid. Obviously I don't know no rights. I'm just like, try to lie or whatever. He's like, I know you went into the bathroom with the toys. You came out with no toys. And then he's like, I got the packaging here. I saw everything you did. Mm-hmm. I know you have these toys. And so, obviously, pull them out. So, he pulls me back to the office because they called the police. They call the police on me.
They're threatening to go and federal pound you in the ass.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, they call the cops. The cops come and pick me up. They take me to the police station.
Wow, for real?
Yeah, for real.
They actually brought you to the police station?
Yes. They decided they were going to teach me a lesson.
Did they cuff you?
No, I don't remember being cuffed.
Because that would be a little much.
Yeah, I think that was a little much. But they took me to the police station because they were going to make me call my dad. Now, this time, my dad was a single father, and he worked at a packing house where, he had to work a ton of hours, and my dad, even now, he's like in his 60s. He still dedicates his life to work. Like he's always working, always trying to raise, make money, whatever. I knew, and my dad at that time, he was a very angry person. Like he had a very bad temper at that time, and I knew that if I called my dad and he had to leave work to come get me, I was as good as dead. And there was no way that I was going to let that happen.
Okay,
and
so what are your options at this point?
So now I'm playing dumb. Mm-hmm. They're asking me, so they got me down at the police station. They're, asking me questions, about, like, well, where does your dad work? I'm like, I don't know. It's like, what's your dad do for a living? I don't know.
Honestly, how much can a kid possibly know?
Where do you live? I don't know.
I can totally see that.
I'm like, I don't know. If you were smart, you know.
As being plausible for an 11-year-old also. Be like, I don't know, he works at the job factory. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, the job factory. I don't know. He leaves early in the morning. He comes back in the evening. I have no idea where he goes.
He's got a briefcase. I don't think there's anything in it. He just leaves.
He just leaves.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't have a job. He probably just hates me.
Yeah. We're just getting subsidies.
He just hates me and my brother.
Yeah, we're just getting money from the government this whole time.
He's just interviewing babysitters.
Just giving out money to everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe if he'd give me that money, I wouldn't be in this position. So they basically they just had me down there, interrogating me, whatever, trying to get me to, and I would not budge.
Wow, good for you. Don't even rat on yourself.
I was like, I am not telling you where my dad is. And finally they were like, you got to call somebody. Somebody has to come pick you up. And then I remembered, the nice lady who was my step grandma, Judy. She was just a wonderful person. I was like, you know what? We can call her in my head. So they ended up calling her, and she came down to get me.
Yeah.
So she came down to get me. And, of course, they gave me a big lecture about stealing and how if I get caught again, I'm going to get, arrested, put in jail. And they did all the things they needed to do.
You're ruining your life.
To scare me not to steal again. And it worked in the sense that not the way they intended. They intended for me not to steal again. How it worked is that I didn't get caught again.
Oh, good. Because that's all you needed was one time.
One time. It didn't stop me from doing it in the future. It just stopped me from getting caught.
Yeah.
But then my grandma picked me up and brought me over back to the babysitter. Didn't tell the babysitter had no clue none of this happened. I'm gone all day, and I went on just this intense adventure. I went to the mall and I hung out. I tried to steal. I got caught. I got arrested. I got to go down to the police station.
You had a sitcom-worthy day.
I did.
Know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like a family sitcom. Like, I'm going to go outside. You're like, okay, come back for dinner.
Exactly. And so I get back before, in the afternoon, and the babysitter's like, how's that? I'm like, it was all right, yeah.
Did Grandma say anything?
No, Grandma didn't bring me up. She knew, because she knew my dad too, and she knew that, she was like, you're going to tell your dad not to, if you don't do it today, you're going to tell your dad. And she immediately went and told my mom. And my mom and dad
30 years later.
Divorced. Yeah. Yeah, Grandma had my back. Grandma had my back. So then my dad comes and gets me, and we go home. He has no clue that any of this happened. Now, the weekend's coming up, and I'm going to be staying with my mom, and my mom's got to come pick us up for her weekend, her weekend with us. And so when she comes to pick us up, that's when I tell my dad as we're getting ready to leave.
Did you feel like it would shelter you a little bit, like by doing it in front?
Yeah. I knew that he would get mad and he would be angry, but he would not get to beat the crap out of me for being a dumb kid.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like I was playing. I'm pretty smart in all this. Like I thought about all of this. Like I planned when I was telling him the timing of that because I knew. Same thing. Years later, I got in a car accident and it was like right before I was leaving for Bible camp. I didn't tell my dad until I got back. Like I'm very good at timing and planning.
Which, clearly the police visit and the Bible camp worked wonders.
Yeah, because I still didn't stop me.
Just kept it up.
Just kept up. So then that weekend I told him, and then I went. He was obviously mad, and then I went to my mom's. And of course, my mom punished me. She grounded me, took my video games away, and stuff like that. But yeah,
I love that the babysitter still got paid.
Yeah, and to this day, she has no clue that none of that happened. Like she has no idea that any of that happened.
She did an awesome job.
Yeah, she's just like, I'm a good babysitter.
Proof that in America, even if you just want to work, you can be terrible at your job and still get a paycheck.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine. Just show up. Just show up. Who cares? Nobody's keeping track.
Another time, this was more like a heist than it was shoplifting. But I with a group of people, we stole a whole bunch of camping supplies from Kmart.
Oh, but you fucking hate Kmart. No wonder they went out of business.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, and I tried to write a bit about the shoplifting story, and I still haven't got it to work to where it works on stage. But one of the punchlines for that I say is that, well, the moral of the story is if you arrest me for shoplifting, you will go bankrupt.
Yeah. So just pick a company and I'll sink them. Me, single-handedly. I'll just be swiping one cappuccino at a time from Starbucks.
That's right. They won't get me.
Yeah.
But obviously, that was in a time when it was way easier because there weren't really cameras. They didn't have, the beeper machine, the magnetic machines and stuff, and the sensors and all the stuff like that. So it was a lot easier. I mean, in hindsight, it was a pretty easy thing to do. All we did was we sent my friend's little brother up to ask for a plastic bag because he was cute and adorable, and the cashier just gave it to him.
Yeah.
We went to the camping section, just picked what we want, put it in bags, and walked out the store.
Oh, really? So it just looked like you'd already bought them.
Yep.
What an idiot this fucking employee is. What are you using a bag for otherwise?
Well, but I know, but it's funny too because we did put a little more planning into it. Like it wasn't like, there was a group of us, so it was like we planned ahead that we wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And everything we put it together like a heist in the sense where my friend's little brother, his role was to get the bags because they wouldn't question why, he's just a kid. They're going to give him the bags.
Yeah.
And then we had people on lookout looking for employees. We had other people that we knew what items we wanted. They went in, and when they had the clear, off the shelf into the bag. Go to the next item, get the things that we need, and then we just kind of all went different, because there's multiple entrances.
I love that you had a gang. Yeah, like Ocean's 11 style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's for camping gear.
Kmart 12 style. So wait, what gear did you?
That's the Kmart Blue Light Special right there. That's the name. That's the name of this heist.
It's free. It's free for us. Wait, so how did you pick? Do you remember what camping equipment you wanted?
That was like also like over 30 years ago. I know you know. I'm just saying. So if anybody's listening,
this has been
30 years ago.
It's been a long time.
It's definitely past the statute of limitations.
There's nobody at Kmart you can call.
Exactly. I mean, you might find somebody, and they're just going to be bitter that they lost their job.
Yeah. Probably got duped by a 5-year-old.
Exactly. But we got like a couple tents, like a family type fence, like one of those big 2-room tents.
Optimistic about your future. Like, I'm going to have a family someday. I should probably get one of these.
And then we got like some sleeping bags and, just other little odds and ends. And
did you use it or did you sell it?
Yeah, we did that night. That night, we set it up in my friend's backyard.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And what's crazy is that maybe they did, maybe some of the people got in trouble, and I just don't know about it because I never got in trouble for anything that happened. So maybe they did get caught and got in trouble and got punished. I don't know. I didn't. So as far as I know, nobody did.
Yeah,
so
he just got away with it.
He just got away with it. His parents didn't care that we had all this camping equipment.
That's awesome.
All of a sudden.
Yeah.
I think we were just like, oh yeah, we borrowed it from blah, blah, blah. And
brand
they just
new.
like, yeah, brand new. Kmart bags and all.
Yeah. So we put our trash in from all the snacks that we heisted as well. Just throw them in empty Kmart bags.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you guys were putting this heist together, like, did you sit down? Like, you sat down like ahead of time? How many other people were involved with this?
There was like 4 or 5 other people.
Okay, so
I know there was 4 for sure.
Yeah.
I think there was another person. I just don't remember. Because again, 30 years ago, it was a long time ago.
Now, do you remember like sitting down? Did you draw it out?
We didn't really draw it out, but we like sat around and talked about it,
Okay.
kind of put the plan together.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we didn't just go there and then improvise this. Like when we went there fully well knowing what we were doing. Like the plan was to get this camping gear.
Yeah.
This is how we were going to do it. And we put the plan in action and we were able to successfully get what we wanted.
Now, did you guys ever plan like an orchestrated event like that again?
No. I mean, they might have tried. That was the last time I did anything with them.
Oh, you were smart. You knew to get out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where people get...
It's like, well, you get greedy and then you get caught.
That's when you get caught.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, we got away with it. That was fun, but I'm not going to keep doing this.
No. But so you said...
because, yeah.
It inspired you. You were kind of inspired to be a criminal. Like, how long do you think that like lasted for you? Like, when did you kind of like that fun?
When I turned 18.
Okay.
As soon as I knew that, like when I turned 18,
there's actual
consequences. Yeah, that's what I'm like. You know what? This is probably not a good idea. Because I did other dumb stuff too. Like, I did shoplift little things throughout high school. I mean, throughout high school, I would still like cigarettes and chewing tobacco and stuff like that, because that was also, there was a time for, young people who would not believe this, but that stuff was not kept behind a counter.
That's what I was wondering when you said chewing tobacco as
this
well.
This stuff was like on a regular aisle at the store.
Yeah.
Even the cigarettes.
Really?
Like there was a cigarette aisle, and at the end cap, they would have like chew and whatever cigarettes were on sale.
I had no idea.
Yes. Like there was a time when you could go into a store and go to the cigarette aisle, not the cigarette checkout lane. Then but I suppose over the years businesses are like, why do we keep losing so many cigarettes?
Yeah, because people are addicted to them and they're like, yeah, I need more of them and I don't want to pay for it.
It's like people probably assume that having the cigarettes behind the counter is to prevent underage people from buying them. Really, it's from keeping them from stealing them.
Yeah, that checks out. seems like a high theft item.
It's more of a saving money than it is caring about who's smoking or not.
Oh yeah.
But I also would steal like street signs and stuff too.
Yeah, those were cool.
Yeah, was just dumb stuff like that. Like I had in my bedroom when I was a kid, or when I was in high school, above my bed, most kids have like posters all over the bedrooms. I had street signs that I stole.
Yeah,
like
you could
stupid shit.
Go buy them at Spencer's Gifts.
Like I had one that was like no camping below dam. Just like it made no sense, but I was like,
it's a cool. Yeah, because street signs in particular were super cool when you were a kid. We had there was one street out in the country where I lived called Dingle Hole Road. And that sign got stolen so much they stopped replacing it. And my mom worked for the highway department, so she would tell us every time that sign got stolen, and we had like 3 of them. You know what I mean?
she's like, "You're not gonna believe what happened today," and you guys are just in there.
It's like, I can't believe anybody thought that wouldn't get stolen. Just call it anything else. Literally anything else. Just call it Dingle or Hole Road. And
just call it Road.
Yeah, just call it Road, for God's sakes. Oh, yeah, dude. Well, thanks very much for sharing that, dude. That's fun. I don't think I've heard people talk about stealing stuff on the show before, but I love the fact that you guys had like a system in place and a grand heist. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we were all like 13, 14 years old. That's how, I mean.
That's had to be a rush when you were that age. Now I'm like, oh my God, I might actually get in some trouble for this, and there's consequences. But then you're just like, this seems fun.
And you don't think about the consequences then. It's just like, this is amazing. This will be a good time. Let's do it.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, plug your stuff again one time. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm on all social media, D Bublitz Comedy. That's DBUBLITZ Comedy. You can find my website, danbublitz.com, danbublitzcomedy.com. And then my podcast, Art of Bombing Pod, on all social media platforms and wherever you listen to podcasts. Get it.
Tight. Thanks, dude.